Romapadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadine Divishesha Shunyavadi Paschachade Satarine. I've attended one wedding that started on time. But this one had a very unusual beginning. But here we are. Some persons in the audience are from a different background than our Vaishnava tradition, so I'll just begin with some explanation how this fits into the whole Vaishnava tradition. Within the Vedic tradition, the ancient literatures in Sanskrit, there's a series of procedures for what's called, perhaps in the West, stages of transformation of life, where the soul, even before conception, there's a samskara, it's called, impression, where moving from one position to the next position and throughout life, different ones, there's a procedure where a qualified Brahmana assists the soul to transition from one situation to a next situation. And it's meant, the samskara is meant to create an impression, a favorable impression on that transitioning, because many times transitioning from one thing to the next thing is a little turbulent. And so it's part of our Vedic culture to assist that transition from one situation of life to the next situation of life by performing samskara. The mantras are standard mantras from the ancient Vedic literatures. That's to invoke auspiciousness and create an impression upon the soul, upon the mind, upon the circumstances of life, to help transition in a favorable way. So this is one of them, Vivaha Samskar. It's existing in religious traditions all over the world. Sacred marriage, religious marriage, where marriage vows are taken and rituals are performed to sanctify man and woman becoming husband and wife, to live together. And hearing sometimes what the vows are, they're pretty heavy. You're going to do some of those coming up? Okay. But the purpose of vow taking is to follow. In our temple in Chicago, right across the street from the temple, there's a Catholic church that takes practically the whole block. Really big place. And a rectory and a school and so many things. And a huge sanctuary where the worship takes place. So I didn't go there, but the person who was doing my service there, Baltimore Swami, paid a visit, arranged a meeting with the priest so that get to know our neighbors. And so the priest took him around the church and the sanctuary and explained where everything goes on, how they do what they do, the Catholic Church. And when they went into the sanctuary, it was cavernous, it was huge. And Baltimore Swami commented, it's really large. And he said it was by design, so that when we have weddings, it's a long walkway to go from where the entrance is to the place where they're going to take their vows, and they can always change their mind. I didn't get a sense that Carl and Radhaduti want to change their mind. The commitments or vows are to be upheld. One of the principles that I was trained in as a new devotee, very simple principle, good moral principle. A man is only as good as his word. Maybe you've heard that saying before. That is, when you say something, you perform that something. And be careful what you say, because what to speak of vows in a sacred ceremony, they're to be upheld. Of course, circumstances can turn upside down and it becomes not possible to uphold. But in principle, as far as is reasonable, then uphold vows. And the purpose of religious marriage, is asked to speak about this. It's in one sense it's material. He and she come together and live happily ever after. The combination of male and female is it's a universal attraction that exists in every species of life without any courses in how to do it. No training required. It's just a natural circumstance. But a sacred marriage has a higher purpose, as human life has a higher purpose, and that higher purpose is to assist one another. There's roles in that assisting one another, but assist one another in the journey of the soul ultimately to the supreme destination. And the supreme destination is far beyond, according to the Vedic picture, far beyond the heavenly region. It's not just happiness in this life and living virtuously and moving to the heavenly region in the next life. It's the ultimate journey of the soul. One vows that are pursuing that objective to live together with Krishna at the center, where the purpose of the things done and decisions made and the way that we lead our lives is centered around what's going to be pleasing to Krishna. And then when that's there, in principle, then the particulars of all the different varieties of things that happen in the course of complexities of modern life, the goal is still fixed. We're assisting one another to serve Krishna, please Krishna, use whatever Krishna has given us, intelligence, ability, strength, wealth, one another, and in course of time, if Krishna so desires, children. I was in visiting somewhere, and this elderly American gentleman said my mother had, one of her favorite questions was to ask, how many living entities does it take to produce a child? And normally people will say two, mother and father. And she said, no, it takes three. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sanctioner of all things, is the overriding third person. And whether there's children or not children, the overriding position is the third person. Kshetra gya chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks of there a second knower that's within all fields of activity. All bodies are fields of activity. And that supreme knower knows everything. And our lives are somehow or another, yena tena prakarena, to connect with that somehow or another, that supreme. And sacred marriage is dedication to that principle. Seeing the miniature-sized deities of Jagannath and thinking of the big Jagannath upstairs. Just a little. The big Jagannath upstairs was first installed in New York, and then they've been preambulatory Jagannath. They've gone from New York to a rural community in upstate New York that was intended to be a school, but they couldn't continue. And then they came here to Baltimore. So I have special appreciation and affection for Lord Jagannath, and although one is big and the other is small, it's the same Lord Jagannath. So Lord Jagannath means the Lord of the universe, and the Lord of the universe has just received flowers and worship and is the witness of vows and the whole procedure. So serving Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra in a devotional way will help in the mood of pleasing them, serving them, will help make the marriage strong and successful, especially Balaram. He gives spiritual strength, and to go through the sojourn of life, spiritual strength is required to stay on course, stay on track. So in the room here, Helen, Mary, what's your name? Yes. Yeah. Helen? Karen, there we go. Karen. We were sitting next to one another. Karen was saying something like, all of us, by some divine arrangement, here we are. Some divine arrangement has brought us in contact with these two, and on their wedding, here we are together. So, in the room, the assembled persons are all well-wishers, and not just in theory, but literally look around the room, parents and friends and very senior persons, senior in their spiritual paths and senior in their strengths of marriages. And of course, Krishna Nandini and her good husband are right there, ready to be available for any circumstance that may arise that looks like an obstacle or feels like an obstacle or is an obstacle. And there's enormous resources abundantly available. Just reach out and they're there. And one last thing. This has been a marriage holiday, it seems. Just this past weekend was this fantastic wedding between two devotees that have grown up in the Krishna conscious families. They're now in their 20s, and fantastic event. So I reached out to another god brother of mine and dear friend, Romapada Swami, saying, you know, we attended a wedding together in Houston, Texas, in the temple. And I said, you said a number of funny things. You're really good at making things fun. So tell me some things that I can say. That's and they were too funny for my character, so I well, you know Rataiva Jamara, she's, like, slapping your knee and hey. But one thing that he said that I appreciated, and I did at this other wedding, and I like to do here also, from the day of marriage and onwards, if you so desire, I don't have it in my hand right now, but a signed copy of Bhagavad Gita, a gift for each of you, and make a dedication to read together however many pages you like to read together every day. That's a very practical way of keeping Krishna at the center. And you both love Bhagavad Gita and love Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita makes putting Krishna at the center. And his math says if you read 2 pages a day, just 2 pages a day, each year you'll have read Bhagavad Gita once. And if you read 4 pages a day, each year you'll have read Bhagavad Gita 2 times. And then stack that together with so many years. I don't know if our Grihastha Vision team teaches this principle, but it's a nice principle. So if you so desire, we'll arrange. You don't have to do that. You're busy with this. But it's a request. You don't have to take a vow, but it's a request. It's a practical way of keeping Krishna at the center and keeping in focus our message of the song of God, how to dedicate ourselves and our lives on the path back to Krishna. So those are my thoughts for this wedding ceremony. Hare Krishna. And we're ready to go. We have flowers and everything.